Welcome to the We Watch This movie podcast, where we sit down and dissect the latest and greatest in film. I'm joined by the Lynch lover, the man with a few films on his watch list. Apparently it's around the 2000 mark. He is the Mulholland Drive master, the Twin Peaks peak of fitness. Jackson, aka Marshall on Film. How are you doing today, Mr. 2000 followers on Instagram?
Fucking atrocious. But who are you? I might be Marshall on Film. We haven't heard your name.
My name is Antonio Margaretti.
Antonio Margaretti. Margaretti.
Buongiorno. I am Dan Allen Movies. You know me from my 12,000 strong followers on Instagram. And today,
This usually happens at the end of the episode.
we lose the plot at the end usually. Today, what have we got today, Jackson? What are we reviewing today?
Today, Dan, we have the latest exciting release from a small independent studio. You might have heard of them. Disney.
Very small.
Disney decided that during isolation, during COVID, they'd brighten up our day. They'd release this treasure of a picture, Artemis Fowl. But before we get into talking about that, Dan, how about we really date this episode and talk about some current events that probably won't mean much in the next fortnight? So what's changed since we last addressed our listeners?
Well, the Oscars have been pushed back due to COVID-19. That's right. The Oscars are now moving to April 25th, 8 weeks forward, and as well as that, Golden Globes as well.
8 weeks forward or back?
They're moving forward as well. So
Forward, so we're getting them sooner.
sorry, they're moving back. Yeah, we have lost the plot. They're moving back, and they're going to be able to accommodate more films, I guess. Then, what do you think of it? I'm not sure if it was necessary.
I'm intrigued to see what some of these new rules and policies the Academy have addressed are going to bring. They've been a bit vague in some of their statements. I guess they've made some bold claims, like they're going to review having a more diverse film selection and committee. We're not too sure what any of this means, so it's only speculation. You know, it's going to be intriguing now that we're pushing out the Best Picture category to a total of 10 potential winners. Who knows where we're going to stand? Who knows where something like Da 5 Bloods is going to rank, or even if it's going to be eligible since it was only released on streaming. We got a lot of questions.
I just don't know why they had to push it back. It's just stick it to what it's usually. If you can't get your film out, get it out next year. It's not the end of the world. So yeah, I'm not sure I agree with it. But anyway, in other news, Jackson, now there's a film. Look, there's a film from a great director that you might know. We'll call him CN.
Is it Kenneth Branagh?
We'll call it CN, okay, for now. He's got a movie called TENET, okay?
What does that spell?
What does it spell backwards?
Oh!
Now, the star of that movie is
John
Robert
David
Patterson.
Washington.
Robert Patterson is one of the stars, okay? Now,
isn't Kenneth Branagh in this?
he is, so it does connect with today's Artemis Fowl review.
Is Artemis Fowl in the same universe as Tenet?
Let's hope not. But anyway, Christopher Nolan had a meeting with Robert Patterson. This was one of the news stories. I tagged you in it, Jackson, just for a laugh.
Did you? I didn't know we were friends.
He was in a meeting. Robert Patterson, first time that I think they'd met, Christopher Nolan called him in for a 3-hour-long meeting where Robert Patterson said he nearly was going to pass out. And they didn't even mention the script until the last 2 minutes.
Oof. You know what, Dan? I've had some pretty serious first-time 3-hour meetings myself. They're called first dates, and I can't think of any of them that led to a movie or anything decent. So more power to these guys.
Yeah, so he was in for a rude awakening, I think. But yeah, that's the news for this week, I guess, from us.
What would be the tougher 3-hour meeting? Chris Nolan or the Safdie brothers for Good Time?
Oh, Jesus Christ, Safdies.
I wonder if they were handing around that bottle of Sprite.
We do want to review Uncut Gems here. We will probably get to it eventually. I think I mentioned it in one of the first podcasts, didn't I?
I think we mentioned it about the first 5 episodes as often as possible.
Yeah, it's a great movie. But
Great
today is Artemis Fowl, Kenneth Branagh. Is that how you say it?
Kenneth Branagh.
Jesus.
We are off to the races today.
Kenneth Branagh?
Yay!
There we go. I got his name eventually.
There's a perfect opportunity there for a joke.
Before we get into the review, Jackson, why don't we take this moment to thank our sponsors?
Look, Dan, thank you so much for that silky smooth segue. Yes, we're going to take a quick moment here to thank our sponsors for today's episode. Who else but ExpressVPN. Check out expressvpn.com/we watch this for 3 months free on your 12-month subscription. With ExpressVPN, you're going to be keeping your online activity from being traced. If you too want to be hunting down some crazy MacGuffin to save your father or do something for 95 minutes, I'm still not quite sure what, having seen the movie twice, you want to be choosing from over 160 locations, which might include Haven City. At least I think that's what the fairy place was called. Maybe Dan can clarify that a little bit later. You want to be going across 94 countries. Yes, you can definitely dial in straight from Ireland, and you want to keep your real location hidden from prying eyes. Maybe if MI6 are going to be kidnapping and bringing into custody your own Josh Gad, well, you want to get him out. You want ExpressVPN. Access any content, no matter your location. Say goodbye to block services and websites. You know, Dan, our Australian Netflix only has about 35% of content the US Netflix has. That's a lot of missing content. If you want content, you want ExpressVPN. Change your country anytime and access more and more and more and more and more. It's very simple interface. expressvpn.com/we watch this for 3 months free on your 12-month subscription. They support us. We support them. Keep this show alive, baby!
And another thing that our listeners should do is head over to our YouTube channel and subscribe. Plenty of content over there as well.
So much.
Jackson, let's get straight into Artemis Fowl.
Who do you think you are? I'm the next criminal mastermind.
Now look around, this is what they call greatness.
Bob Iger, the former CEO of Disney, pays an acclaimed Irish director, famous for his Shakespearean movie adaptations, Sir Kenneth Branagh, to burn $125 million cash in a barrel, along with all 8 volumes of a popular young adult fantasy series, described by its author as Die Hard with Fairies, for an excruciatingly painful 95 minutes that's sure to ruin your fond childhood hopes and dreams of seeing this series on the big screen.
How long did it take you to write that one?
It could have taken me 6 hours and it still wouldn't have felt as long as this film.
A 95-minute film felt long to you. Now we've reached full flight.
Well, we're flying higher than any of the fairies in this film ever possibly could.
All right, give us a quick rundown
Sure.
of this synopsis if you can.
Absolutely. Let me check my notes. I actually can't. I've got the word nope written down because having watched the film twice over, and that's over 3 hours, Dan, I still cannot tell you anything about this movie. I said at the top of the pod, I'm not feeling that bad. In fact, you might even say I'm feeling fantastic and never been better, but this film was a shit show. I cannot believe this was even released at all. $125 million down the fucking toilet. Midsommar, how much was that? 15, 16 million? You could get 10 decent sized budget indie films, 10 A24 pictures for the price of this. Are
Even
you
I'd
serious?
prefer that.
What the fuck happened? Was just every decision in this was mind-boggling. The music was appalling. The acting was worse. The cinematography was shit. The visual effects, none of it was creative. The tone was so far off the wall. This was played 100% straight with the worst script. This is like Guardians of the Galaxy with all of the humor and anything just fun stripped from it. I'm lost for words here, just putting this thing down.
How did you get through it twice, let alone once?
It's just those hypnotic fairy eyes. All these Deus Ex Machina powers, they're washing over me, mate.
Well, I'm glad we watched it together for your second time, and you got a little bit of the commentary that I had. I knew what we were getting into from the start. I'd seen a lot of reviews, so I knew that this wasn't going to be a great film. Probably wasn't going to be great. And after 5 minutes, I nearly had already made my mind up, hadn't I? I'd already been cracking a few jokes. Straight off the bat, the Josh Gad sort of voiceover is so jarring and just ridiculous.
What was he thinking? Who let him do this gruff voice? About halfway through the picture, he just gets rid of it.
He's trying to be Batman or something. It's just ridiculous.
This is like the worst take on Heath Ledger's Joker or Tom Waits possible. Of all people to act with a gruff voice, you asked Josh Gad.
Yeah.
All sense of comic timing and everything was thrown out the window. Any self-awareness, all of it gone. This is just absolutely disgraceful. Sir, listen to that. Sir, knighted by the Queen. Sir Kenneth Branagh, Henry V, Hamlet. Wild Wild West, maybe not so much, but come on!
This isn't about the father. This is about the son.
What was he thinking? And this isn't his first dud as well. Is he just collecting a paycheck at this point?
I'm...
Seriously, is he just collecting a paycheck?
Here's what I think went down. What was it? 2-3 years ago, we had that Cinderella live adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
We've got much of the same cast, all of the same crew, with, of course, Kenneth Branagh at the helm. He's brought back his cinematographer. He's brought back Patrick Doyle for the music. At this point, was Disney like, we want you on this project. We're going to give you as much money as you want. Carte blanche. Do whatever you please. But then they come up with this. I'm lost.
How bad was the dialogue? That was one thing that really stood out to me. It was just atrocious.
Screenplay was so...
Could you call it a
shit.
screenplay?
It was barely a shooting script.
Yeah, this is one of the worst I think we've ever seen. You and me have seen for sure. This was shocking.
We're jumping right ahead to the end of the show here, but this is bottom of the barrel. Not only is this the worst of 2020, this is probably the worst film we've watched.
Yeah, this is definitely the worst film we've watched.
A literal piece of shit in Capone.
Yeah, this was worse than Capone, if that gives you any idea. Colin Farrell, hasn't he gone downhill?
What happened?
Look, I'm sure he collected a sweet $1 million for these 2 days of work that he put into this film. But looking back, what was he thinking? What was anyone thinking? Judi Dench was in this. Oh, we could go on about her.
Sir Kenneth Branagh and Dame Judi Dench. Dame Judi Dench looking like she's just walked on set and they couldn't get rid of her, so they put her in the movie. I've never seen an actor more lost than a picture than her.
She was riding the Segway.
You had an awesome point while we were watching what is going on with these costumes. Not only what is going on with these costumes, how did Judi Dench let herself be dressed up in such a ridiculous outfit? Who was the person that dressed her? Who was the person that approved it? Who was the person that designed it? Who was the person that signed the deal for this movie? You know who it was?
Who?
He who shall not be named. No, not Voldemort, but close. Mr. Harvey Weinstein.
Really?
Miramax.
You're kidding.
Wanted to film this. Okay? Artemis Fowl. It is a book series. Very popular with the young adults. I remember I was a fan when I was much younger, just after Harry Potter got big. From an Irish author, Owen Colfer. Nothing like the film, might we say.
The books were actually decent.
The books were decent. And 2001, Harry Potter's big. Miramax, Harvey Weinstein comes in, swoops it up. 20 years later, we get this picture. Harvey's name nowhere to be seen on the credits, and we don't need to discuss why. I think it's...
Jesus, yeah.
I think it's... I don't think there's anyone on the face of the planet who doesn't know why, but...
Can you tell me, Judi Finch, okay? She rolls up to set.
Now you're just baiting
How
me.
old is she now? She's about 80, okay? Great actor. Actress, I should say.
Well,
But-
actor, for sure.
Yeah, and she rolls up to set and she sees this big green outfit. I guess she puts it on and goes into makeup, or probably goes into makeup first. What have we got for you today? Oh, we're going to put you on these elf ears on you,
And we're gonna give you Bowie hair.
and we're going to give you Bowie hair, David Bowie, and then we're going to dress you up in this green suit, very tight and not very, not a good look.
I don't think she had any agility points in that outfit, should we say. In fact, did she move around at all? I think she was on a Segway, and that was about it.
She didn't move. But fair play. Anyway,
She's collecting a tidy paycheck at her age and a dame. Well, you know.
I'd love to know what she got paid for this. Let's hope it's big bucks, because this was shocking. This is probably her worst performance. And what would she think when she looked in the mirror and saw that? This is the peak of my career. I mean,
The peak.
would she be thinking that?
Is this the peak for Colin Farrell?
Oh,
Should we just call this film Artemis Peak?
just look, I'll be honest, the opening shots, there was a bit of Irish music coming in there, and I thought, okay,
Oh, the
we're
Irish
getting a bit
grill.
of that Irish flavour in here. This is
Can
going
you
to
give
be
us
good.
your Irish accent?
Hey, Irish, be sure to be sure, my friend. My name's Colin Farrell. In Bruges, eh? Okay, here we go. Yeah, we need
Potatoes.
yeah, a bit of that Irish flavour. I thought, okay, we're going to get some sort of heritage of this Irish culture pushed through here that might help bring this film to light. Didn't get any of it. We had 3 locations in the film. We had a house, we had a soundstage, and we had outside the house. Was that about right? It was just appalling.
Dan, how can you forget? I've already forgotten the name.
Who were you thinking of? Butler.
Yeah, Butler. The fairy underworld. Haven
Oh.
City.
Haven City.
Wasn't it just truly come to life, emanating off the screen? Clearly not a green screen.
Honestly, the first couple of
Ripped from
shots,
the
I thought,
prequels.
okay, this could be okay. Honestly, those first few opening shots as we see that world, and then it all fell apart when you just realise they're in a soundstage here. It's so blatantly obvious. They couldn't even hire any extras. It was just the CGI was poor. The acting. Now I got to tell you, this kid, I don't know what his name is, who played Artemis Fowl.
Shaw. Robert Shaw's grandson, I believe. Great-grandson, but 30th Shaw.
Honestly, the poor kid. This is like he's reading lines. It's really not good.
This is career killing.
This is shocking. And when the first few lines that you see of him in that school, just atrocious. And it's the screenplay doesn't help him by any means.
Doing no one any favors.
No one any favors, but the direction from Kenneth here, it's his first.
What direction from Kenneth?
Exactly.
I don't think he rocked up to set. I think he was pulling a Tommy Wiseau and someone else was doing all the work, because there's no chance this guy was ever present trying to get this film made.
It's honestly like
the decisions from everyone across the board.
It's like, we're gonna have a couple of takes. Yeah, that's fine. Move on. It's just.
It reminds me of that scene in Ed Wood when Johnny Depp is Ed Wood. They're filming they're filming something in the street, and they say, oh,
Scissor hands.
and said, oh, have we got a permit to film here? He said, no, we don't. No permit. And they do a scene, and there's some blooper, something screws up, and there's this great quote where Edward says, movies aren't about the small details, it's about the big picture. Well, not when there's this many fuck ups, all right? It's not about the big picture.
Oh, I'm trying to think of a redeeming quality, but I actually can't.
Yeah, I've got one. Are you kidding? It was only 95 minutes long.
That was good. That was good. I don't think I could have taken much longer, to be honest. And you even said, did they strip 30 minutes out here? Because these Josh Gad voiceovers were really filling in the blanks of the story, or what was a story here. Very interesting. Like, without him, we could barely follow with his voiceovers, let alone without. Do you reckon they added that in after, or what? Because this is just so convoluted, the way they've told this narrative.
It's strange to consider. There are so much of this narration and framing device of Josh Gad being interviewed, or what's his character's name? Mulch Diggums, the giant dwarf.
Mulch.
That's a oxymoron. It's like, hang on, yeah, was it done in post to help give some context to the story? But nothing here has any context. It must have been 2 hours chopped down to be pushed out to theaters. At what point do you think Disney looked at this and went, oh my God, what have we done? We have a stinker on our hands. Because this was meant to get a theatrical release. And they could have pushed this back, all right? They could have pushed it back. They didn't.
I wish this did get a theatrical release. Because I want to see how many people turned up to this thing.
They were cashing in their chips. They were cutting their losses and saying,
I really think
fart
they
this
were.
one out there.
Yeah.
110%.
For sure. Why don't we go into spoilers? I guess we'll go into spoilers. There's not much to spoil here, but let's just throw them up. Spoiler alert. At what point are we're already going into spoiler? No one's going to watch this film. If you made it this far, you're not watching
the way
it.
we're going.
You're not watching this film. If you are, you're watching it to take the piss. Seriously, it's a shocker.
This is just like a scene from Hellraiser between you and I right now. We're just trying to endure as much pain and pleasure as possible.
The funny thing is,
okay,
yeah.
Go
on.
The funny thing is just us trying to speak. Spoilers. What's there to spoil? What happened in this movie?
Well, I was turning to you every 20 minutes. I was trying to get some more information out of you, Jackson. What's happening here, Jackson? Can you tell me what? You could not tell me. Every time I asked you, you said, I don't know, Dan. I can't tell you. You'd already seen the film.
Can we pick apart Artemis Fowl II, Artemis Fowl Jr., 30 ashore? Can we pull apart his plan?
Oh, what an illustrious plan this boy has come up with.
Here's my best interpretation. His father's been kidnapped. The house somehow gets a phone call from some fairy magic from some character played by Hong Chow that we wouldn't even know. And apparently there was a deleted scene and some other deleted scenes with characters, but couldn't care less to go and see them. He receives a call. He finds out that some supervillain, even though Artemis Fowl is meant to be a supervillain, don't know, has kidnapped his father and has said, you have to get the Oculus Rift. You have to get a VR headset.
That's what I thought of instantly.
Oculus.
And it's not the first time we saw a bit of gaming in the movie.
We'll get to that, all right?
Okay.
We will get to that.
All right.
So you have to retrieve this MacGuffin, okay?
Oh, love a MacGuffin.
We love a MacGuffin. And this supervillain believes that Colin Farrell, Artemis Fowl Sr., has stolen this MacGuffin, the Oculus. Okay, Artemis Fowl Jr.
Oculus. It is called an Oculus. Okay.
Yeah. He's got to crack this puzzle left by his father. I'm now making this sound far more exciting than it is or has any right to be. He's got to crack this puzzle, and he believes it's somewhere around the manor or the grounds. This is after a second watch, because on a first watch, I had no idea what was going on. Somehow, Artemis Fowl knows that dwarves in this world, because we have fairies, dwarves, and trolls, of course, lions, tigers, and bears, oh my. He knows that dwarves can tunnel and are good at finding things and cracking codes and breaking into safes. Somehow he knows he's going to enlist the help of a dwarf, and he's going to get that from the fairy world, which apparently is real. Just bear with us here. So his plan is to kidnap a fairy detective or a police from, what was the name of the agency?
Couldn't tell you.
Leprechaun?
Oh my God.
He's going to kidnap someone from Leprechaun, and then the rest of the force are going to come after Artemis Fowl in Fowl Manor. But, Dan, there is a rule In fact, the fairies have lots of rules that are discussed in the books. But the main rule mentioned in the movie is that fairies can't come into your home unless they're invited. Now, Artemis Fowl and Domovoy Dom Butler...
Nonso Anizi.
Played by Nonso...
You had to look, mate.
Played by Nonso Anozi, who's also here from Cinderella.
Anizi.
They're going to fight off the fairies.
Is Anizi an Aussie?
Open negotiations for some reason with Dame Judi Dench. I don't quite understand. But again, the fairies end up sending in a dwarf. I know this doesn't make any sense, and I'm totally getting lost and cooked my brain just trying to... I feel like you and Mulholland Drive, mate. Just trying to make any sense of this.
Yeah, I've already fallen asleep, mate.
Yeah.
It's just...
We get Josh Gad. He enters the manor. He's got the treasure. Now Artemis has it. And by this point, none of it has made any sense. And somehow 60 minutes has passed and we don't know anything that's happened. And it's not even a movie that washes over you. You're just totally lost.
Jackson, I looked at the clock. I said, this must have been going for an hour now. It was 22 minutes in. Oh, no. I want to say, if there was a standout here, it was Butler. It was an Aussie. Is that what his name was? Monzo an Aussie? He was a standout. He didn't have contact lens. I don't know who said that.
No, and his blonde hair was very natural.
Yeah, that was natural. It was... yeah. Stop saying that. He was brilliant. But... I guess this isn't a comedy, is it? I mean, Josh Gad was trying to add his flavour of comedy in. You know, he's been in a lot of Disney movies.
It looked like
Frozen.
there was some improvised takes.
Yeah, and...
Not that he had anyone to work with and no one else was game in this movie but him.
No one was helping him out here. He did his best, I guess, but it literally took him 55 minutes before I got a laugh. Before I laughed. I don't think you laughed once, Jackson.
No, I didn't. I barely cracked a smile. I think I laughed at you, mate, for having enjoyed this picture, even just for a moment.
The joke that got me was when he said to Judi Dench, "I don't know your first name. Is it Brittany?" It's so stupid, but I laugh for some reason.
I'm laughing now because it's so shit.
And then he followed up with David Bowie or something. It was just so dumb, but it somehow worked. So that's one redeeming quality. We were looking for
any moment of levity.
Oh, I was looking for something to cling on to. A beacon of hope.
I mentioned at the top when I was ranting about the tone. Imagine this movie, even with such a shitty script, but imagine this movie directed by someone like Taika Waititi, who could just bring that kind of that irony and could play on the fact that what we're watching is so ridiculous. Like there's so many better ways to stage and block some of what was happening. And even with the dialogue as pathetic and piss poor, no one would ever sound like any of the words they were saying. Even with the way that was, there must have been something to squeeze more juice out of it. Just because it's a kid's movie doesn't excuse it for being a shit movie.
What's a movie with fairies and trolls and that's worked well comedy-wise? Can you think of any in recent time? I just don't know if it's a...
Oh, you might have heard of this one. Shrek?
Yeah, but it is animated, and you've got two of the biggest comedic geniuses in the world, Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy. A little bit different, I think. But...
What's wrong with Judi Dench and Kenneth Branagh? Because if you
do I need to explain myself?
Dialogue, you think Shakespearean level actors?
Oh, I think it was missing a couple of more comedians, or this was missing something. I don't know.
It was missing a script.
That's the main thing, I think. I shouldn't even say that. It was missing everything, wasn't it? It was just
missing fun.
No, it wasn't fun at all. The costume design, piss poor, as we said. Cinematography, non-existent, really. There was a couple of shots where they tried to be
creative. We had some of the Dutch tilts that we've seen from some of Kenneth Branagh's more recent work, and very reminiscent of Thor and Sleuth and movies like that. But in such a bad movie, Dutch angles just reminded me of Battlefield Earth, and the less said about that, the better.
Production design, non-existent. It feels like
No! Here we go.
We can't.
The main event, right here.
Okay, we've got a few things here for the production design. I guess this falls under it. First of all, he's in a kitchen. There's about 20 feet of kitchen here. He's got everything. How many shelves? And it's a massive kitchen.
Huge kitchen in this manner.
Where was the TV position, Jackson?
The TV was on a side table against a pillar. Right in the center of frame.
I mean, it wasn't even straight.
No, you said it, mate. The TV was on a slant.
It was on a slant. What is going on here?
It was seriously the laziest bit of design
I've ever
laziest
seen.
way to frame this possible.
Yeah, I've never seen a more. It couldn't have been intentional.
There is no way that someone like Sir Kenneth Branagh was on set looking through the lens and said, "Yeah, that'll do."
There's no way. I just can't see.
I can't believe this wasn't directed by Alan Smithy.
And then we had the main event. We panned
the real main event.
We panned to Artemis Fowl. Well, there's two. We panned to Artemis Fowl, and he's got the brilliant Alienware laptop and the 3 screens. And
Shout out Alienware, sponsor us, please.
Please.
I could do with a new laptop.
And his screens are so far apart. He's obviously hasn't played Warzone or hasn't been a gamer recently. But then we had another girl who I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't even tell you her name. Honestly, I didn't even know who she was.
Juliet. She was Dom Butler's niece in the book series.
I would never have told you that.
Series,
never.
She is a younger sister, but here she was a niece.
Well, she had, I think it was 8 screens, 4 below, 4 on the top. And no, the best part, all the screens are just one wallpaper. Like there's nothing going on any of the screens. I don't know. That's what I saw anyway. I can't even remember. But
for a movie that we can't go out and recommend to anyone, we sure are getting into the nitty gritty of the details here. If look, people, if you're listening and you're having a laugh with us and you're thinking, oh, I really want to know what they're talking about. Nah, trust us, you don't. Just don't even bother.
And the ears on all these extras, and just when we first go into Haven City, you're not in the world, are you? You're just looking at it like this is a parody.
Yeah, there's nothing interesting.
It's like
it's so bland and dull. And we've seen it before.
You've gotten some costumes out of the wardrobe, and we're just going to throw them on set.
Yeah, for $125
million. You said it doesn't make sense. How much did Colin Farrell actually get paid for this? 10 million.
A couple.
Seriously, this is the greatest robbery he's ever done, and he's been in a lot of those films. No.
The Great Disney Robbery. If you're going to steal money from someone, at least steal it from the top dogs.
Shit, this is the greatest robbery of all time. And, Jackson, another standout moment, the Senator.
The Senator! As my fantastic co-host was saying, yes, a true standout, or maybe sit down, the Centaur. Do you want to give us your...
It's the Senator. Senator.
Do you want to give us your impersonation?
Yeah, I will. Ready? As he walked off, he went, "No, no, no."
Do you get
it?
Because
ridiculous. When you thought the movie couldn't get any worse, we get that. But no, there's more. We cut to Butler, and what is he wearing? In the jungle.
Smash cut to Butler wearing a suit underneath a ghillie suit.
A ghillie suit. It looks so ridiculous. At this point, we're just taking the piss, aren't we? I mean, they even do a little bit of Inception there.
Inception?
With the time stopping at certain parts there. And I thought, oh, finally, some sort of interesting technique.
I know. I was waiting for Dom Cobb to start going on about Maul again.
And it just looks fake. There's no good action. The CGI of the troll was just shocking. I cannot give you anything good about this film. Like
We really are racking our brains here. You know what was good about this? How Owen Colfer described his book series. And I remember reading this when I was younger, and it just filled my imagination with such sensational images. Die Hard with fairies. How did you fuck up Die Hard with fairies?
Yeah. Did you notice Ben Mendelsohn and one of the orcs as one of the orcs?
I thought it was Ed Sheeran.
It was a cross between Ben Mendelsohn in Captain Marvel, his character, crossed with an orc in Lord of the Rings, and it just didn't work. Every character in this, I tell you what.
Jeez, those aren't some obscure references.
I know no one's gonna get that.
You're really pulling hairs in me, mate.
Yeah, literally, I was not invested in any character in this at all, and there was supposed to be some sort of payoff at the end with Butler. There was some crying going on. I was just like, shut up, get to the credits. I didn't give a shit if he died or stayed alive.
Oh, come on, mate. This is the tentpole movie.
Butler was my favorite.
We're meant to be launching the Artemis Fowl franchise.
That was even worse.
We couldn't kill Domovoy.
Oh, I know.
We had to bring him back a minute later.
Because they're sequel baiting. I can't wait for the next two. They're definitely going to get made. Yeah, just no connection to these characters at all. Even Butler, my favorite character, even when he was about to die, I said,
by virtue of contact lenses,
even with the crying, whatever that was going on, still nothing. And there was some sort of romance between Artemis Fowl and that fairy. I'd lost it at that point. This was a stinker, guys, and I don't think any of you will be watching it. To sum it up, the villain, we haven't even talked about the villain because it's so one-dimensional.
Who was the villain?
I couldn't even tell you. It had some stupid voice sort of synthesizer on it. It was just ridiculous.
Stupid voice? Are we back to Josh Gad?
No, it was even worse than Josh Gad's voice, if you can believe that. This villain, one of the final lines was this: "You think you can beat me?" That just sums up the writing, doesn't it? It's just so one-dimensional. It's like a kid's story. Like, I understand this is a kid's story, but a 4-year-old kid literally wrote this, and it's been made. It's that dull of a write. I don't want to...
Dan, for our listeners out there who have children or someday will be having children, as I'm going to make a presumption here that probably will be you and I, maybe together, who knows. You can show your kids one of two films, and only one of two films. It's either this or Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse. Which are you going to show them?
Well, geez, that's tough. Yeah, I'd have to go with this. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, you agree? Yeah. Spider-Man, come on, man. This is... You want Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, or do you want Josh Gad, Dame Judi Dench?
Or do you want Josh Gad shitting out dirt?
We didn't even mention that. His mouth expanding.
Probably one of the most horrific images.
That's when it became a horror film. That's when it became a horror film.
I thought watching Hereditary.
It was worse than Midsummer when his mouth expanded and he was into the dirt.
It was like the utter stupor scene from Midsummer all over again.
Oh.
Josh Gad's jaw got bigger and mine hit the floor.
Okay, so there is some redeeming factors. I could watch this again and have a laugh. So
see, I came back for round two.
Maybe this does get an extra point. All right. Well, why don't we hit Jackson's segment?
Jackson's ratings.
IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, audience score, and Letterboxd.
Oh, before we do, I want to give a very quick special shout out to Connor McPherson and Hamish McColl. These are our two credited screenwriters. To the best of my knowledge, from research conducted, because, we do that every now and then on this show, once every 5 episodes. These are 2 of the 4 credited writers. Now, Hamish McColl has such classics to his name. Okay, that's being a bit harsh. Mr. Bean's Holiday and Johnny English Reborn. So, not too bad. Also had a story credit on Paddington. Hamish McPherson, a British playwright. Come on, guys. Time to hang up the boots and your careers have barely kicked off. This was shocking.
Oh, God.
And you know what, Dan? We weren't the only ones that thought this was a bit of a shit show. Let's put it out to what the public thought. Already, a month or so into its release, maybe only a fortnight, a few weeks, depending on when this episode airs and when our lovely listeners will be watching it. We hope never. IMDb, at the time of recording, has this coming in at a 4.1 out of 10 from 11,000 user ratings. Dan, who the fuck gave this a 4?
Yeah. I can't stick up for IMDb here this time.
Rotten Tomatoes, much more in line with where you and I are going in this review. 9% of critics gave this a fresh rating. Whoever you 13 people are,
13 people gave this fresh.
job.
13 people, they need to be fired.
13 from 142
I would
collected
love to
critics
read
ratings
those
so
out.
far.
That is crazy.
And 9% on Rotten Tomatoes is death. Now, from our 9% of critics, it has an average rating of 3.6 out of 10. So, truly a stinker on our hands. Audience score swayed a little bit nicer. 20% of audiences gave this a decent rating. I don't know what they were thinking.
Are kids allowed on that?
Although, on average, 1.65 out of 5 from 1,700 users. Metacritic, 31 out of 100 from 33 reviews. And finally, you've been waiting to hear them. The name drop.
So, hold on.
19
Hold on. Let me say their name.
19
Please.
episodes in. We didn't mention it at the top, but here we are.
Let me say their name. Ready? I'll get the Holy Grail music. Here we go.
David Lynch.
Letterboxd.
1.3 out of 5, having been logged now by over 12,000 members.
Oh, yeah.
Dan, have you seen a worse performing film on that platform than 1.3 out of 5?
I have, but we'll get to that next week. There's a stinger for you. I just can't believe 13 people gave this a fresh review. But anyway, Jackson, why don't you hit us with your final rating, which I'm eager to hear.
Drum roll, please. That was a nice drum roll. What else but 1 out of 10 incomprehensible MacGuffins? Book shut. Case closed. I don't know if we're ever going to get a worse film than this.
1 out of 10.
1 out of 10. My next best reviewed film on this podcast was... we did a quick shout out to Event Horizon. And then above that, well, we went in depth on it, and that was Capone. This was so much worse. The one and the only redeemable factor, again, it was 95 minutes long.
Yeah, right. Now, my review, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 10. Now, the reason I don't go 1 here, the reason I don't go 1 is because I could see myself watching this again for a laugh because it's that bad. That's the only redeemable factor. I'm telling you now, I won't be watching it again. But I could watch it again, like yourself, and just take the absolute piss out of this thing because there's some moments in there that are just so stupid that they're funny. So I'll give it a point.
More power to you.
I like I said, probably half a point for some of those moments and then half a point for the camouflage butler. So it's a 2 out of 10 from me and a 1 out of 10 from you. So that's a 3 out of 20. So that is going to be a 1. That's going to be half a star out of 10. That's going to be a 1 on our scale.
Yeah, that comes in at a...
That is our worst.
That
This is the
comes
first
in
one.
at half a star.
This is the first one on the pod.
Letterboxd.
Wow. First one on the pod.
Truly
Hopefully
a
not too
tragedy.
more many. But, next week I'm still wrapping my head around what we watched. But there you go. Artemis Fowl, Jackson. Did you think
Dan,
it was going to be
whatever-
this foul?
Whatever movie you are lining up for next week and next episode, mate, I'm very concerned. Our lovely listeners, you've stuck through us for 19 episodes so far. I just want to thank you for sticking around so far in this pod after our usual in-depth and dissections have gone right out the window, and in their place is a ton of foul language and a ton of hate. But things are going to get a lot brighter and a lot better as we're going to talk about some recommendations. In fact, we each had to go out and watch 2 other films other than Artemis Fowl this week. Dan, what did we watch?
Well, last week we had Rochelle on, and she gave to us...
Shout outs, Rochelle at the movies. Rochelle rates it. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you haven't listened, go listen. Excellent episode.
She was on our Once Upon a Time podcast last week, and she gave us a recommendation. It was Into the Wild. I gave you a recommendation, Wind River, and you gave me one, Melancholia.
Already.
So I pleaded, I begged Jackson, please give me something, just a normal film, just a standard film, something with Joel Edgerton, preferably, maybe Hugh Jackman. What do I get? A Lars.
You get a Lars von Trier movie, buddy. That's what you deserve.
Kirsten Dunst, Alexander Skarsgård and his dad, and who else was it? Not Bruce Willis. Keith Sutherland. No, who was it?
I believe it was.
It was Keith Sutherland.
And Charlotte Gainsborough shows up in the cast as well.
Jackson, I'm sorry, but I went into this not with high hopes, but I knew what I was getting in for with the director. I'm not a fan of his work at all.
Oh, what makes you say that?
I've seen a few of his films. There's a couple that spring to mind that I think you might know of that are very hard to watch.
Give us some names. That'd be nice.
Starts with an N.
Point of
starts with an N. There might be two of them. I was not a fan of that, and I've watched a few of his films actually, and I don't think I've liked a single one. So coming in, I didn't have that high hopes.
The bar was high,
but the reviews were so good. Letterboxd had this at an 8, 9, and 10. No one had given this lower than a 5. Absolutely no one. I'm putting that to the test right now because I watched this thing, fell asleep 6 times. The opening 5 minutes, I'm like, fuck you, Jackson. I sent him a message. I said, F you, Jackson. You knew I wouldn't like this. You're putting me through the torture. The opening 5 minutes, you know what you're in for. Artsy fartsy is the word that I use. I'll give it props. It tried to go ambitious with the story. It had a great lead. Kirsten Dunst isn't a dunce in this. It's a good performance, but it's not enough. It's just so boring, Jackson.
What's the movie about?
Depression. And that's what I felt.
It sounds like
depressed.
A lot of fun.
No, it's not fun at all. There's nothing engaging about it at all. There's nothing to bring you through. Some random moments happen. Yeah, it's just so depressing. I mean, I just don't understand how this has 8s, 9s, and 10s. I want to hear what you would give it, but I gave this a 3 out of 10. Yeah, and this is... I didn't get many likes.
There, send your hate mail again.
I know.
Dan Allen movies.
Look, please tell me why I'm wrong, because I just didn't like this film. And by the end, it was laughable. People are telling me this emotional ending where they're all on the field and the world's coming in on them. I thought it looked so fake. It was laughable.
Legend of Zelda. What is it? Majora's Mask.
Oh, mate, it was not my film, and I wouldn't be alone. It didn't have many ratings. And not many people saw this film. If you brought this to the wider audience, that 8 would be diminished in a second.
The moment you've got Lars von Trier's name on the poster, it's probably not going to get a wide release.
Correct, because he's just
controversial
so weird.
figure for our listeners out there.
Why is he so? He's just a weird unit. What?
That's why.
Far out. And I tell you what, the shaky cam that he used here was so jarring. It was so unnecessary. I didn't get it. And he zooms in on the characters every now and again, and it's just shocking. The dialogue, I guess the dialogue and characters felt sort of real, but it's just one of those films where it's just so depressing you don't want to watch. Wind River is also sort of depressing, but at least you're engaged with that. I was engaged with it. I enjoyed it. Whereas this is just a real slog to get through. And yeah, I gave it a 3 out of 10. Tell me why I'm wrong if you have seen Melancholia. But I have a bone to pick with Letterboxd for this one. Very artsy fartsy. What did you give it? Tell me now. This is what I've been waiting for.
I can't tell you because I haven't seen it.
Oh, really?
Our listeners out there.
Oh, no.
Dan,
I thought you'd
Dan is
seen it. Are
Dan
you
is shooting daggers right
Oh
through
my
me
God.
here at the We Watch This HQ. By the way, we didn't mention at the top of the pod, but yes, we are recording live here in Melbourne right now. That's Melbourne, Victoria in Australia, and we are the COVID hotspot of the country. And we're in a suburb in the COVID hotspot in the country. And we're in a suburb in the COVID hotspot in the COVID hotspot. Listeners, Dan has begged and pleaded with me. The next time we do a round of recommendations, I'm going to go easy on him. I've put him through literal hell. He has survived. He's escaped from Hades. Kratos is climbing out. You've done it. Well done. I can't share my opinion on Melancholia, but I can share my opinion on the movie you recommended me, written and directed by Taylor Sheridan, and that was Wind River. Going into this picture, I had zero expectations, no idea what to expect. You had talked it up. Hell or High Water, very highly regarded. Sicario.
Have you seen that?
I haven't seen
Okay.
that. Sicario, directed by Denis Villeneuve. Both those films penned by Taylor Sheridan, who wrote and directed this. I thought, oh, okay, I wonder what kind of movie we're going to get. And this cold, freezing, isolated, depressing, paranoid thriller set on the coldest part of the American frontier in Wyoming during, I don't know what time of year it is. Summer, spring, fall, winter. It's fucking cold all the time. I had a great time watching this. This screenplay, total opposite of Artemis Fowl, was razor sharp. Every beat hit. Hawkeye and Scarlet Witch, where's their team up? They tore it up in this. In all seriousness, very good performance from Jeremy Renner. Among his favourites from me, I still prefer his turn in The Town, Ben Affleck's film from,
that was good.
what was it, 2010?
That's a classic.
Classic and an amazing, underrated performance by Jeremy Renner in that. In this, he's very good. Elizabeth Olsen, another standout.
I think she tore it up in this because she hasn't
Absolutely.
done much of that caliber, and I think this she really stood out.
100%. And as the only female lead in this cast, in an isolated environment surrounded by men, that's part of one of the themes of the story. She really got it done. I can't say enough good things about this film.
What did you think
It
of
was
this?
tough. It was violent, and just that tense, paranoid scene where everyone's at a big Mexican standoff. It felt like something out of John Carpenter's The Thing. No one could trust one another. The pacing had excellently built up to that point.
Can you tell me, without getting into spoilers here, how shocked were you at that that point where we see the flashback and
I thought...
we get a cameo from someone here as well. Were you shocked to see him?
We will throw it out. Frank Castle, The Punisher, Shane, Walking Dead, John Bernthal shows up, steals the scene as always. Yeah. Very ambitious to show this crime that set the whole plot in motion and show it in such graphic and excruciating detail.
Hard to watch.
Very smart decision. I watched this late at night and it kind of added to the paranoia, and I felt like I wasn't quite sure where the story was going. I felt like, I'm going to fall asleep here. But yeah, it was a gripping movie. You know what, Dan? I'm keen to hear your rating. My rating for Wind River came in at 8 out of 10 pulmonary hemorrhages.
Oh, God.
What was your rating?
Hold on. I'll give you my rating. What did you think of that that standoff at the end as well? You thought that paid off? Without going to spoilers, but, Jeremy really... does a good job in that end.
You can see why this guy was playing Hawkeye, because he sure is a sharpshooter.
But yeah, paid off for you. Yeah, I think I came in at an 8 or a 9. I'd have to rewatch it. Yeah, I'd have to rewatch it, but I really enjoyed it. I watched it in a local theatre here in Melbourne when it came out, and the theatre experience was even better. Really great cinematography as well and music. Adds to the American Indian sort of flavor of it all. It's it does it justice, doesn't it? It's really...
and there's quite a lot going on thematically here in the screenplay. And Taylor Sheridan, his second feature as director, and he
can't wait to see what he does.
Received quite a lot of regard and acclaim at Cannes when this screened in 2017. Yeah, we can't wait to see what he does next. And you know what else I'm keen to check out, mate? Sicario.
Oh, we got to get it. We got to get to that soon. because that's a crime that you haven't seen that.
Yeah. Now we have one more recommendation to cover. This came from Rochelle. I know you've got some strong opinions on this one. Dan, tell us about your experience watching the 2007 biopic or biodrama, I suppose, directed by Sean Penn, his feature debut, I should say, as director, Into the Wild. Take it away.
Rochelle, I know you're listening right now. I begged you.
We hope you are. It's been a shocker of a recording.
I begged you for a normal movie. What does she give me?
In fact, the quote, and we got this one written down from our Once Upon a Time in Hollywood episode. Rochelle, please go easy on me. Give me something lighthearted. And she gives you Into the Wild.
Give me something lighthearted. What do I get? 154-minute. Might I add nothing lighthearted. I didn't think there was anyway. Rochelle, I just can't see the 10 out of 10 that you did here, unfortunately.
Hot take.
I wanted to love it. Once again, like Melancholia, the reviews were high. But I just couldn't resonate with it. It wasn't a screen time. Don't get me wrong. With most of my favorite films, Dark Knight, Interstellar, Blade Runner, they're all 2.5 hours long plus. It's not the time. It's just this is so slow moving. Yes, she was right. It had a great soundtrack. Phenomenal soundtrack. Cinematography was pretty good as well. It had some really
gorgeous landscapes.
Gorgeous landscapes.
Both that and Wind River, right?
Yeah. And, I liked the main character here. Some of the adventures he went on. I guess there was some touching moments along the way. But what was his name? I couldn't tell you.
Alexander Supertramp.
Okay, yeah.
Come on, Christopher McCandless.
Right. You know what I'm like with names. So, but yeah, I just feel like I think the best moment for me came near the third act with the old man. I didn't mind that part of it, but leading up to that, it was really
very
slow.
Emotional performance there from Hal Holbrook.
No, that was really good, but. The ending, I guess this is a biopic, isn't it? It's a true story, but it just didn't land. And I respect the ambition of Sean Penn. I really like Sean Penn. I saw him in Walter Mitty the other day, which is a similar flavor to this.
Yeah,
it's a very similar movie, and I actually really love that. So, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to watch it again. It just didn't resonate as much with me as it has other audience members. So. I came in at a 6 out of 10 at the end, which is quite low when you look at the reception it's got, over nearing 1 million reviews on IMDb at an 8.1. So, yeah, a 6 out of 10 from me. I just thought it lacked something to get me really engaged, but I can see why people love it. So it just didn't resonate with me.
Dan, you haven't had an easy week at all. We've covered in long form a total bomb in Artemis Fowl. You've had to watch Melancholia and Into the Wild. You poor guy.
And that's not it, Jackson. Hold on, before you go in, do you know what else I've watched this week?
Is this going to be our next episode?
I'll get to that. I watched 7,500.
The Joseph Gordon-Levitt film.
Correct. 4 out of 10. The Fanatic. 2 out of 10. You don't mess with a Zohan.
Sorry, you mean Fred Durst and John Travolta?
Yes. You don't mess with a Zohan. 2 out of 10. Get a Job. 2 out of 10. Can You Keep a Secret? 4 out of 10. This is the worst week of movies I've ever had in my life. And 365, there it is. 365 days. We're reviewing it next week for our 20th episode. The romantic film. Can't even call it a film. It's on Netflix. It's causing waves right now. We're going to be reviewing it next week. What did I give that? You'll have to find out. But go on, Jay. It hasn't been a good week. That's the point.
Oh, shout out to our editor who's going to have a nightmare doing this episode.
Yeah.
Dan, I did enjoy Into the Wild more than you. You said you didn't get it, but you understand why you said you didn't get it, but you can see why others would take more from this film and why it would resonate better with them. I felt Emil Hirsch's performance at only 22 years of age when this was filmed was hypnotic. For 2.5 hours, this guy totally sucked me in and I was bought into his journey.
It's a great performance. He brings it in a way where you really feel like he is the character. It's not an act. This is him. You know what I mean? You feel like this is the real guy. So I agree, but go on.
And I had no idea this was based on a true story until we saw that photograph of Krista McCandless outside the magic bus at the very end. When I saw that, I thought, shit, is this real? I thought that was just how this screenplay and this story ended, with him tragically passing away. Spoilers! For the most part, I was wrapped up. What docked it for me and put it down to a 7 out of 10 burnt dollar bills, I felt that this was a selfish journey. And I can see why people would be swept up in this man's story and experiences on the road and how he touched other people's lives and how they touched his. But he had a family who appeared to at least really love him, especially his sister. It's bizarre in a film to see both Jenna Malone and Kristen Stewart show up. They look almost identical. And Jenna Malone's character is Alexander Supertramp's Emil Hirsch's sister. The poor woman, I guess she'd accepted that he was doing the best thing for him by running away and not speaking to them for 2 years before dying. But yeah, it's tough. I guess we've all been in that point in our lives where we just want to jump on our bikes and get in the car and go. But
not for that long. I just didn't resonate with the character.
2 hours and 54 minutes.
That's the thing. I just didn't resonate with the character. I didn't get his motivation there. I understand you want to travel and that, but there's no need to cut everything off like that. It just didn't click with me.
The ensemble was great. Everyone was smashing it out of the park. Who really surprised me, was massive at the time, doing some great work in recent movies, and had tarnished his name for a little while there, Vince Vaughn. I wanted to see so much more of him in this movie.
Didn't get enough.
Did not get enough. All in all, look, for
Was
me
he a
this
big
week,
name
I had 8 out of 10 and 7 out of 10 better experiences than you, so...
7 out of 10? Yeah. Was he a big name back at that time?
2007. Mate, he'd done Wedding
was this
Crashers.
2000? I thought it was 2003 for some reason. Yeah, he'd already done some classics by then, yeah. So this was a bit of a change.
Interesting debut and ambitious, we should say, from Sean Penn.
Yeah. Sean Penn hasn't done much directorial work, even though this is such a big hit, I guess, with movie lovers.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see if he's got other projects coming up. I'll have to see, but I loved him in Milk, and he's been in some classics, and so he's not short of any talent, that's for sure.
100%.
So there we go, 6 out of 10 and a 7 from Jackson. I guess we can put that one up as well. Maybe we'll see how we go.
Listeners, breaking news. On our letterbox at the moment, you'll find all of our episodes ranked, and you're also going to get a recommendations list. All of the movies we've spoken about in short form, we're going to throw it up there for you. So if you want to check out more things that we recommend, head to our letterboxd.
Beautiful. All right, Jackson, I think we've covered more than enough, guys. Next week is our 20th episode for 365 Days, the Netflix film, the erotic film. We're going to be watching that. I've already seen it at this point. Jackson's yet to watch it, but we can't wait to review that. It's going to be
expectations are sky high.
This is going to be a full-on episode, so get ready for that. And guys, we want you to send in your questions to us on Instagram. Send it to us via message. Any questions you have, and we'll read them out next week's episode for episode 20. Jackson, I think that wraps up today. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Any final words? Where can the listeners find us?
Listeners, we appreciate you and love you all so much and are so grateful you've stuck around for us this long. 19 episodes. God, it feels like 19 years at this point. Anyway, listeners, you may find us, the We Watch This Movie podcast, at We Watch This Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Letterboxd, and you want us on Twitter. You can find Dan's work at Dan Allen Movies on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, our awesome editor at Dan Allen Gaming on YouTube. You can find my work at Marshall on Film followed by an underscore, Letterboxd, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. Check us out on TikTok. We're putting some cool, funky clips from our reviews there. And while you're doing all of this, chuck us a subscribe on YouTube, hit follow and subscribe on your favourite platform. And what we'd appreciate most of all, we're getting some great feedback, a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It's going to help share this with the rest of the cinephile community.
Guys, if you do just one of those things, I'll be happy.
Do them all, we'll still be happy.
Thanks for listening, guys. We'll see you next week for episode 20.
Mwah!